good evening, everybody. Sorry, let me just. There we go. Hello, everybody. Yay! Thank goodness load shedding gave me a bit of a gap tonight, although 8 o'clock, our 4 hour slot starts, so we will make this quick. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on my Facebook Live. Please feel free to ask any questions. This is an interactive chat. I very much do want your questions, so please feel free to pop them into the comment section. And thank you again for joining. So, what I want to talk about is the fact that being a photographer, social media shows it as they only show the positives. So it's about the adventure, it's about the incredible locations, it's about the dream life. And while we do get those opportunities, there's a lot more that goes into it behind the scenes. There's a serious amount more that goes into it behind the scenes. So that's basically what we're going to be chatting a bit about tonight. Some of the behind the scenes of what it's taken me to get to where I am with my career. And I hope that some of them can help you. So please let me know where you're watching from. Please comment so that I know that I'm not like lonely. And thank you again for joining. Now, firstly, I just want to make sure that you know that the session is not going to be a this is what I achieved and this is what I did and then I got this award, and then it's very much not going to be like that. What I would like for you to do, or for you to gain, is a bit of insight into how I've built my brand, but then also some tips and some tricks into starting your journey or your photographic journey. So please interact. So far, there's no comments and there's 4 people watching. What is wrong with you? Comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know who you are. Like I said, let me know that I'm not alone on this. So growing up, I didn't always want to be a photographer. I literally was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to be a game ranger or a private investigator or air hostess. I jumped around a lot as to what I actually wanted to do. I always admired the kids that knew from an early age, okay, this is the path they want to go on, and they kind of stuck to that. That was amazing, like to watch those kids actually stick to it. But as you can see from all of those jobs, the main thread that runs through them is the fact that I didn't want to sit at a desk. I wanted a life of adventure and exploring and pushing boundaries. But side note, photographers sit at their desk a heck of a lot. We literally do. All day, every day, unless we're out shooting. Okay, so we've actually got comments. Thank you. Martin, Lady Smith in the house. Good. Oh, I'm glad you're in the house. Hello, Mum. Go make me tea, Mum. Hello, Chris from Germiston. So glad you guys could join us tonight, and so glad that, like I said, load shedding actually gave us a gap. Okay. Now, to become a photographer, obviously the first thing that you are going to need is a camera. Now, this is a seriously daunting task. Choosing a camera, but the pricing. The pricing is bad enough that it'll give you a heart attack, or if your parents are buying you a camera, it'll give them a heart attack. But then it also comes down to choices. There's so many different choices. There's so many different brands of camera, so many different types of camera, whether it be DSLR, mirrorless, bridge camera. Where do you choose? Where do you start? So to narrow it down, you firstly need to identify what your budget is. When I started, my budget was pretty much non-existent. So I got a Nikon D3100 and kit lenses. And that was my starting point. That was a place to now grow and to learn how to be a photographer. And the photographic world puts a fair amount of emphasis on what camera. There's always articles coming out about this camera and how good this is and how good that is. And in the photography world, people are always like, oh, I shoot with Nikon, it's the best. I shoot with Canon, it's the best. This is the best. That's the best, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that doesn't get emphasized nearly enough is the fact that the camera doesn't make you a photographer. Yes, it does make doing the job easier, but that is your responsibility. You are the photographer. You are the creative person behind the camera. So it's not about what camera you own, what lenses you own. It's about you and developing your skills. And when you start out with a lower end camera, it actually makes you a better photographer because it challenges you a heck of a lot more. We rely on our camera gear way too much now. The technology that's in the camera gear is designed to make our lives more, or make lives taking photos easier, and it does, but then we become lazier as photographers, which is not great. So it's about your responsibility as a photographer. So Let me just get my next screen up. There we go. So there I was with my Nikon D3100, my 1855, 55-200, and I was photographing absolutely everything, whether it was at home. At that stage, I was still working at the vet, so I think I drove them quite crazy with running around taking photos of the pets at the vet. And yeah, it was just about creating images. I had no idea what I was doing. I still remember going to my first air show and literally everything was static. I looked at the images today and went, boy, because I really had no idea what I was doing at all. Sorry, I'm busy looking at my notes and trying to figure out what I actually wrote here. And now trying to get the right screen that I actually needed in front of me. So yeah, so these are basically what I was then taking, images of whatever bugs I can find in my garden, sunrise and more bugs. As you can see, I like bugs. And before moving on, there are two very important things that I actually want to chat about in terms of photography and in terms of beginning your journey. Firstly, naming your company. And the reason I bring this up, and I removed the screen. My goodness, I haven't done one of these in a while. The reason I brought this up is Best Buddies Photography. That was going to be my company name when I just started with photography. And I chose that name because it was going to be people and their pets, and it kind of fitted with that. But when I changed direction and went into motorsport, Best Buddies Photography kind of didn't really stick. So when you're starting your photographic career or photographic company, be aware of what you're choosing your name to be. If you are choosing a specific genre, that's great, but photography is supposed to be an adventure. So you're going to change genres at some point, and is your name going to suit it? Is your name not going to suit it? Or you can just do the typical thing that I did and put your name in front of photography, and then you're a professional photographer. But just keep that in mind in terms of choosing gear. Another picture from the vet. Like I said, I drove him crazy running around, not really doing my receptionist job, but taking photos of all the animals. Now, the second most important thing, and just go back to that screen. Please comment, please ask questions. If I'm going too fast, sorry, load shedding. But please feel free to comment and send me questions. Now, the second most important thing to consider with photography, once you've now got your camera, is insurance. From the moment that you get your camera, make sure it is insured. Please make sure it is insured. I cannot emphasize this enough. A few months after getting my Nikon, which, like I said, I had to save a fair amount of time to actually get that camera, I didn't close my camera bag properly, and my beautiful Nikon dropped onto the floor and plummeted to its death. And all of my dreams died along with it. Fortunately, I was insured. It was fixed in no time, and life carried on. But if I didn't have that insurance, I would have been stuck. Nothing has changed. For me, my most important payment that goes off every single month is my insurance of my camera gear. Now, you also need to be very aware of the types of insurance, or specific types of specific insurance claims and procedures. So one of the things is if you leave your camera bag unattended and it gets stolen, or items out of it get stolen, insurance companies tend to not pay for that because they see it as neglect. Why wasn't the camera bag actually on you? So please, please, please keep that in mind. As photographers, we get distracted very easily. So we'll be at a racetrack or we'll be at an air show and we're watching what's happening in front of us or happening above us, not really concentrating on our belongings. So just keep that in mind. Then there is also a specific insurance for professional photographers. So I have a specific insurance that is for photographers that are earning from photography, and it obviously gives me specific benefits. Be aware and don't think twice about paying for insurance. The day that you need it is the day that you won't regret having it. So let's go back to this one. Nope, that one. As I mentioned, my path soon changed from dogs into the adrenaline world. This happened rather quickly, and my first time at the racetrack was April 2012. And yeah, that was my first time ever at any racetrack to getting my accreditation in August 2012. You may ask how, and honestly, it is simply through opportunity. I looked for ways to make contacts in the industry and basically looked for an open door or created one myself. With photography, you're pretty much responsible for creating your own world, for creating your own opportunities. So On this specific day, I was walking around with my little camera, and one of the marshals gave me the opportunity to stand on the grid while the bikes were lining up. Firstly, my nerves were finished, and all I was actually stressed about, me being a girly girl, was tripping. That's literally all that ran through my mind was I'm going to trip and I'm going to land on my face and I'm going to damage my camera. Obviously, that is a thought. But in front of all of these guys on bikes, my word, my life, and that's literally all that ran through my head. But because of that opportunity, it then created a passion or a love for engines. Well, okay, I always had a love for engines, let's put it that way, but a passion for creating images. And I still remember getting home and taking this image and going, what's going on here? Like, what is this technique? Look, I actually got movement. What? Like getting so excited about this image, and I still showed my mom, and I was like, "This is so cool!" Not realizing that that's actually what we're supposed to be doing with motorsport, not catching the static on the racetrack. Um, but it was all about finding opportunities, all about pushing yourself and finding events, learning from each of those events, trying to improve each time that you pick up your camera. So then I got my Nikon D600, which meant that I could take my photography to the next step. Now I'm going to say something that is kind of backwards to what I said earlier. It helped in terms of opening up more opportunities. So like I said, the camera gear doesn't make you a photographer, but it does allow you to kind of push your skills to the next level. So especially when it came to low light, this then helped me to create images, better images in low light conditions. But it honestly is just a process and it takes time. Started off with my gear, and okay, I progressed quite quickly in terms of building up my gear, but it takes time and it takes a fair amount of money and saving. But it's progression, it is a journey to getting it. So then we head into 2013. This was a rather busy year for me as I was still working at the vet and trying to do photography on the side when schedule allowed it. Then I came to South Africa Motorsport Photographer of the Year, my first photographic, haven't been drinking, my first photographic competition. Now, firstly, trying to select images for a competition is beyond tricky. It gives me so much of a headache trying to actually figure out which ones to submit. Should it be this one? Should it be that one? Maybe the judges are like this one. Maybe you should submit this one. But what about this one? What you need to do when you're selecting images for your competitions, select what you like. Select what you're passionate about. Select the images that you love and feel proud about. That will show or portray through the images. So I did that. Fortunately, I had some assistance. So I had some other photographer friends that would literally sit with me and go, okay, right, choose that one and choose that one. And I had my family selecting and helping me. And so having other people look at your choices also helps, kind of gives you a different perspective. Because sometimes you will be proud of an image and they will see something else in that image. So submitted my images and I won the title, which was beyond anything at that point in my career. I was very, very excited. So these are the actual images that I then submitted and I won the title with. This was taken with my D3100, just proving again that the camera doesn't actually make you or make great images or bad images. You as a photographer do. And now looking at it, I'm like, what? The photos are not even in focus. But hey, I was proud of it at that stage. So these are all the images that I then submitted and that won the title of Motorsport Photographer in 2013. Let me know your thoughts. And obviously, being a beginner photographer, I was in my selective color phase, but at least it kind of, well, I still think it kind of works. Maybe. And I miss this so much. Photographing the jet car at Tolton. It was always one of my absolute favorite things. So let me know your comments. Let me know what you think. And like I said, let me know if you've got competitions coming up. Just do it. Just enter them. You have nothing to lose. That's literally been my biggest deciding factor in my photography career is submit it, do it, send the message, ask for permission, don't ask for permission, but just do it. Just make a decision and go for it. If they say no, you've lost nothing, basically. So winning that title pushed my name further into the industry, which then helped when I made the jump later in 2014 into full-time photography. So working at the vet, or still working at the vet, and trying to do the racing as much as possible was really, really tricky. I had to choose one, which was a very difficult choice. So it was stability or following your passion. So I'm just going to quickly check the comments. So Jeff Miller from Springs, Peter from Verenigen, Martini, where are you signing in from? And Johan from Belgium. Awesome! We have an international. Yay! That always makes me excited. To Johan, I'm kind of rushing through the information a bit tonight because we have load shedding and our power literally switches off from 8 o'clock and tonight is 4 hours stint. So that's why I'm kind of like rushing through the information a bit, but please feel free to ask questions and interact as we go through the information. So back to the information. So I had to choose one. And obviously it was going to be racing. I mean, duh. Like, it was exciting. But without my mum's support, I wouldn't have actually been able to do this. This is where I get to do my whole speech about my mother. Having her be the responsible person in the relationship, having her be the responsible one at home, making sure that the lights and water were covered, the bond was covered, leaving me to fulfill my dreams, even when there were rough months. There always are rough months when you're working for yourself, made the world of difference and made me be able to pursue that opportunity. So I will always be grateful that she helped me and allowed me to do that. So just a word of wisdom. So on the 1st of April, just 2 years after picking up my first camera, I left my job and any level of financial security to push into the photographic world. I was so nervous. I mean, jumping from, okay, getting a salary slip every single month to, I really hope somebody actually wants to hire me is a very, very, very daunting thing. But I was adamant that this was the life that I wanted. And when people ask me about becoming a full-time photographer, generally I say don't. Because it takes away a fair amount of the passion. It does. There are fun moments, but there are really not fun moments. But one of the things that I do say to them or tell them is that if they've got enough drive and passion, and if they're a little bit insane, then they should be able to make it work. Because to be doing this and to be pushing through, especially after the last couple of years, there's definitely a little bit of insane there. I actually have banners here, but I forgot I was using them. So let me know in the comments, what was your first camera when you started photography? What was your feeling when you got your first camera? I remember getting my first camera and just being so excited, and the world opened up. I could now go out and I could photograph everything in my head, everything. So from there, it was about finding events, racing and non-events. It was about selling my images to as many drivers as possible, and it was about constantly trying to create images, constantly trying to improve my photography and just grow in my photography. So I've got some examples. So again, just do it. This was photographed at the Clarkson and Hammond show, and I submitted my accreditation and they accepted it and I photographed it and it was absolutely amazing. So if there is something you want to do it. Send them an accreditation form. If they say no, you've lost nothing versus not sending it and then you could have got that opportunity. Again, non-racing images. This was at the first AAD that I went to. My mom and I literally woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, caught the train through to the Air Force Base. It was such a cool day. And at least for this one, I got a little bit of shutter, a little bit of movement rather in the props. The last one, there was no movement. This is still one of my absolute favorite images. It was in a very intense moment. So just going through some of my different images that I shot over the years with different equipment. And it's been interesting for me to see my growth. And that's why I do say that photographers actually need to go through their work from time to time to actually see their personal growth. Because it does make a very big difference. It shows that you are improving. And it also shows you how your editing style changes, and it's kind of cool. And at least with Facebook memories, it kind of also reminds you. So if I go through my Facebook memories, sometimes I'm like, did I really post that? And other times I'm like, okay, cool, that's a really great image. So it's nice to review your images and to kind of see how you're doing. So Martini is coming in from Pretoria. Thank you so much for the comments. And Chris has a Nikon D3100 and a D3400. Those are still very, very good cameras. Yes, the technology has improved drastically from them, but they're still very capable cameras. But it's just gear, photography gear, and the world around photography is always about what cameras you own. So I remember walking onto the racetrack the one night. We were doing drifting at Swartkops, and the photographer's checking out my gear, and I had my 3100 and I had my kit lens, and I was like, I'm going to make this work. And they were like, you know, that thing can't handle low light. And I was like, so it's what I have to work with, so I'm going to try and produce the images. And did I produce anything astounding? No, but I still tried. And I learned the boundaries of my camera, and I learned my boundaries as a photographer. So knowing what your camera can and can't do is also a key element to growing your photographic skills. So, end of 2017, or before I get there, so basically it was just about now finding more and more events, more and more clients, whether it was product clients or portrait clients or corporate clients. It was just about surviving the crazy world that is photography. End of 2017 brought me to another stage of my career where I decided that motorsport full-time wasn't for me. I needed a change of scenery. And this is another aspect that I want to chat about, picking a genre when it comes to photography. Now, a lot of photographers advise that you pick one specific genre, and I'm the opposite. I say, don't pick a genre. Try everything. Yes, you will have specifics that you enjoy a lot more, but as you try those specifics, so as you try different genres, you will literally figure out ways to incorporate techniques in other elements. So for me, that is why I didn't stick to a genre. I felt that it kind of gave me a bit more of an edge where I could incorporate motorsport, which I mean I shot for a fair amount of time, into wildlife, which they are similar in the sense that they incorporate movement. You can incorporate movement or you can take movement away into portraiture. So basically shooting those three genres makes me feel like I can incorporate and I can deal with any specific situation, whether it be low light, whether it be movement, whether it be incorporating movement. So that's why I say trying to explore and experience different genres will help you as you grow your photography. So if you're looking at a specific genre, go into that, sure, but don't get stuck in one genre. Try different things, and yeah, unless you truly love one specific genre, which I get bored way too quickly. That's the honest truth. So then we just carried on with the photography. We looked for opportunities. My photography grew into workshops, which also another element. I was like, what? I can't teach people. Which is also, it's a scary thing. It's actually a very, very scary thing. Now, taking what you have learned. Now, I have no formal education in photography behind me. And now sharing that with people. It feels very daunting. It feels like you're a phony. It feels like, what am I doing? What am I sharing with people? Is this the right information? Is this the wrong information? And then you come to realize that people are actually coming to you to learn your way. Each person or each photographer has a different way. And that's one of the things I always speak about on my workshops is the fact that this is not the only way. There are different ways to capture these specific images. And if my way works for you, that's perfect. If my way doesn't work for you, that's also 100%. You will find your specific way. So, photography was going pretty well. I say pretty well because it's never really like 100%. It's always challenging. It is always difficult. It is always a grind. You literally never stop working as a photographer. People go into it because, oh, it's easy money. I'm yet to find the easy money. You work harder than you would work at any specific job. But then we hit lockdown and COVID and yay, and all of the drama that went with that. My goodness. That was a seriously challenging time. The world literally stopped. There was no work. Now, for the introvert in me, I was extremely happy. I was like, I get to stay at home. I didn't have to deal with people. I didn't have to deal with clients. I didn't have to drive anywhere. My brain was very, very happy. But for the businesswoman in me, it was freak out time. It was, oh my word, what is going to happen? How long is this going to, it literally felt like the world was ending. I don't know if that felt like for you. Let me know in the comments how COVID affected you, how it felt when the world stopped. I mean, if somebody had told you this was going to happen, you would have been like, what movie have you been watching? What drugs are you on type situation. So another thing that I developed during lockdown, we've got a fairly decent sized garden, which is pretty much overgrown at this moment in time, which makes photography really, really fantastic. There's lots of bugs, lots of critters that you can go out and photograph. So pretty much every morning, every afternoon, I was out there with my camera trying to see what bugs I could find. And this improved my photography. It improved my ability to kind of see what was out there, but it also improved my macro photography. So again, using a negative to actually grow from. And then also I kind of tried different things. So we have a tennis table out at the back, and I literally would like use that for product photography or for doing elements like this. Obviously I'd have like massive mats underneath to make sure that the table didn't get wet. My mother will kill me for that. But again, it gave you a different time to actually try photography like this, which I find that when you are in the working space, we lose that creative edge, which sucks. Fortunately, as we came out of lockdown, I got the opportunity to be the videographer for the bike show. And unfortunately, I don't work for them anymore, but it was an incredible learning curve and pushed me into doing a lot more video work. Which again is a completely different element to photography. There are some elements that are the same or some elements that are similar, but a lot of the technique is very, very different. So use your opportunities, use your experiences, whether they're good or bad, to teach you something. There will always be opportunities to learn. It's just got to be your outlook. So shooting for the bike show was really, really great. It was just sometimes very, very tricky, especially in South Africa, in terms of safety. Obviously, a lot of the times I'm literally standing on the side of the road, waiting for the bike to come past, and that can just turn into a dodgy situation a fair amount of the time. So it became really, really frustrating. And being a woman in the industry is also not the greatest. You kind of feel like a bit of a target a fair amount of the time. But still, learning videography was a really, really cool thing, and something that I now do a fair amount for corporate clients. So, are there any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions for me? I really hope this is interesting. I was trying to figure out how to make it not a, yay, look at me, look what I've done type situation, but more of a, this is how you kind of get to some level of success, even though that level of success, somebody actually asked me that the other day. There was a question, what is your version of success? And I was like, that's tricky because it's constantly changing. Your version of success is constantly adapting to whatever you're doing. So for today, your version of success could be paying the bills. Tomorrow, it could be fixing your car. Tomorrow, or the day after, it could be getting a really, really amazing photograph. Your version of success is literally constantly adapting. So I'm like, what is my version of success? And at this moment in time, I think it's literally just staying afloat, staying above board. I mean, this world has gone flipping crazy, and finances are crazy, and load shedding, and just not being driven insane by the fact that our power keeps switching off. So there's that. Right. So then there came the opportunity to travel. I grabbed this with both hands. Like, traveling has always been my biggest dream. I haven't had much of opportunity to do it purely based on how much it costs. But then I got to travel to South America, to Chile, for my brother's wedding. And now this wasn't the best or the greatest first experience as an international travel with a 58-hour travel time. My goodness, that was long. The traveling wasn't so bad. It was the waiting around. In Istanbul airport, there was a 19-hour layover. 19 hours. And I really, really wanted to do a lot of street photography in the airport, but the regulations, I'm never entirely sure what the regulations are and what the security is going to do. And so I was just like, I don't really feel like getting chucked out of the airport for doing this. So I tried to behave and not take many photos of people, but it was quite frustrating because there's a lot of photographic opportunities in airports around the world. So arrived in Chile. Chile hit its hardest lockdown, which was really, really frustrating. I arrived there and I'm like, I'm going to go exploring. I'm going to see everything. I'm going to experience everything. I want to go. And they're like, no, you're not. No. You were allowed out 2 hours a day, and you only had permission forms for two permission forms per week. So like max of 4 hours that you were supposed to be out, which was seriously demoralizing and frustrating. In any case, my brother and I spent a fair amount of time on the metro, which was a great way to kind of explore the underground metro. The metro system is phenomenal. and very, very big, but also there isn't police or military on the metro system. So the chances of actually getting arrested for being out were not that high. But again, street photography opportunities were just phenomenal on the metro system. Now the train stations were also absolutely awesome. They had different themes for every single train station. So that was cool. Like, I look back now, and while I was frustrated while I was there, now I look back and I can go that I've kind of seen a bit of a different side to Chile versus just going to the normal tourist spots. So just before I left, things did open a little bit, and this was taken from sort of one of the local tourist spots. So it really is a phenomenal country. And I was still grateful that I was able to go back there. Or go there rather. After 3 months of traveling, the travel bug had bitten now. And all I now wanted to do was travel and see more of the world. Could never ever have imagined that a year later, I would have then have been to Zimbabwe to see the Victoria Falls. This trip was still absolutely out of this world. We've literally just hit 1 year from being there. And Mom and I are already like, oh, can we go back? Because it was such a phenomenal experience, such a magical place. And the people there are beyond incredible. So yeah, never could I have imagined that a year later I'd be in Zimbabwe and then Zambia and then 9 other countries. 9 other countries. Life as a photographer can be extremely unpredictable. It's like there's never really much of a routine. There's constant change. There's constant growth. There's constant challenges that you face as a photographer. But it is a journey that you will never, ever regret. For me, I decided when I started with the photography that you're never going to be rich. You're never going to be extremely rich. Let me put it that way. You're never going to be a multimillionaire being a photographer. It's just not how the industry works. It's not how people pay, etc., etc. But you will have a life that is full of adventure and full of seeing stuff and full of being able to escape somewhere without needing to report to a boss, without needing to feel guilty. My office, some days, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to a game reserve tomorrow because I can, because my circumstances allow for that. And that is sometimes what photography can be. Just go with it. Saying that is easier than doing it. I suck at doing that. I'm literally the worst person. I have to be in control. So saying that, I'm like, you're such a liar. Just do it. But by the same token, it is a valid situation. It is a valid course to take with photography. Just look for your opportunities and just do it. Just go for it. So last year's experience as working as photo studio manager on one of the Silver Seas cruises was beyond my wildest dreams. If you had told me in 2012 when I got my first camera that I would be doing this, if you had told me in 2022 that later the year I would be traveling to all of these incredible countries, I would have laughed at you and told you that you were crazy. This couldn't happen to me. Like, this opportunity would never become mine. But again, it's about looking for those opportunities and jumping no matter how scary they are. It's daunting. It's seriously, seriously daunting. Like I said, when I started being a full-time photographer, it was like, what route do I take? Where do you go? What's the plan? And I'm pretty bad at planning. So jumping in and going, what's my next step? And you're like, you've got to work out every single next step. It's seriously, seriously scary. But flying out to Madeira, joining a ship. Now, previous to this, I'd never even been on a ship, ever. Was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. It was beyond nerve-wracking. Walking onto that ship, at that point, they still had heavy COVID protocols. Filling in so much documentation, having to go through so much training, and it was scary. But a saying comes to mind, and that saying is, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. And you then need to choose whether growing personally, growing your photography, is worth jumping away from that fear. And fortunately, with my mom's help and for some friends' help and hectic support, I could see that. It was still very, very scary. Fortunately, the ship life was beyond supportive. The people on board were incredible. They understood what their first few days were like, understood trying to figure out stuff because, my goodness. Surprised I did not get lost on the ship. That is the fortunate thing, but it was quite a bit of a smaller ship. So, again, thank you so much for the comments. I'm going to definitely read through them and reply to them afterwards. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I hope it's interesting so far. I really hope that I'm kind of giving a bit of insight into some of my adventures. On social media, you see like a little bit, a fraction of what actually goes on and what goes into these adventures. So please feel free to ask questions, to comment. Let me know what your photographic journey has been like. Let me know what your photographic plans are. So if you apply that saying, and I'm going to say it again, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. If you apply that in your photography, you can push through your anxiety and fear and imposter syndrome. Now, this is a new saying, a new sentence that I found today on one of my art groups that I recently joined. So I had to go and Google it. Imposter syndrome is the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, despite being high-performing in external objective ways. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud or phony and doubting their abilities. Now, as a creative, this is something that doesn't go away. It feels like it actually gets worse as you get more and more into your career, because you're constantly pushing your boundaries and pushing what you feel is a good image. You're constantly trying to improve on that. So each time that you feel like you're not, you feel like, oh, did I really do a good job? And the reality is that as photographers or as creatives, we all have days that we're not creating great images. We all have days where our creativity is simply not there. But the fact is that we need to not let that fear and not let this imposter syndrome actually win. We need to work through it and just carry on. Close our eyes some days, even if that means that, okay, today wasn't a great day creatively. We can try again tomorrow. So the ship experience literally changed my life. It gave me an opportunity to explore certain sections of the world that I never, ever imagined I would go to. Never mind the fact that I never knew where half the places we went to were. But it opened the world. It literally gave me the feeling that I can do anything. And that is a key feeling when it comes to life. You are able to do whatever you want to do or achieve, as long as you're able to put in the work and look for the opportunities. So the opportunity with the ship basically came about by a friend sending me a message. Hey, I really think this could be a cool opportunity for you. It was a screen grab of one of the groups, asking, okay, cool, send your CV in. Now, sending my CV in is another rather daunting task because, again, I don't feel like I'm worth it because I don't have a formal education in photography. I don't have a formal education in pretty much anything. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to send my CV in and see what actually happens. And again, it's that idea that send it in. Why not send it in? Don't not send it in just because. Like, find a reason and just send it in. Or not even have a reason and just send it in. If it's an opportunity that you want, then find a way to make it work. It's that simple. And then it was about waiting. And I'm literally the worst at waiting. I check my emails, check my emails. I'm literally the worst at waiting for somebody to send me something. So opportunities are out there. You just have to look for them, be aware of them, and get past that fear to actually get to them or to attain them. So a question that I get asked a fair amount, and I'm never sure how to respond. And I try and kind of actually give them an answer that's helpful. And that question is, how do you become a brand ambassador? So unfortunately, there's no simple recipe. There's no cut and dry, this is how it works. It's different for each company, but there are elements that help you. And one of those elements is standing out from the crowd. So when I was shooting motorsport, being a woman already helped in that department, but make sure that your work speaks for itself. Make sure that you're creating images that you are proud of, but that you're also showing your growth, that they can see, okay, this person's not just going to, fly by night type situation, going to be a photographer for 5 minutes and then leave the industry. Make sure that they can see that you are invested in it and that you are going to be there for the long haul. With both Thule and Olympus, my ambassadorship came about through contacts. Contacts are pure gold. They're the most important aspect of most industries. whether it be photography or whether it be, I don't know, selling houses. Having contacts in different departments, different industries, really, really helps a lot to getting your photography name out there. So a lot of people think being a brand ambassador is just about getting free stuff. Yay, get free stuff. But it's not. It's about being passionate about the brand. It's about seeing how that brand adds value to your brand, how you can co-align those two brands, and then how to bring that brand on every single adventure that you go on. So you'll see I post a fair amount about my Thule bags because they really are phenomenal with the different adventures I put them through. They last no matter what conditions I put them through. And through traveling now, they've lasted phenomenally well. I mean, again, 58-hour travel time. Can you imagine what the luggage goes through those times? Actually, my last trip coming back, they literally lost my luggage, which was great. And it arrived and was absolutely perfect, including the 5 intact, absolutely magnificent bottles of Argentinian and Chilean wine. Yay. So again, it's about bringing those brands and incorporating them into who you are and into your photography. You'll see I post a fair amount of my Olympus gear. My Olympus gear looks like it's been through hell, and pretty much has. I use it pretty much every single day in very, very harsh environments, whether it be motorsport, whether it be with the wildlife. I'm not sensitive on my gear. I'm not gentle on my gear. I want to see what the Olympus gear is able to do, and I want to put it through its most difficult paces to see, okay, this is what the brand can handle, and this is basically what will kill it, which ironically was some water from Victoria Falls last year, killed one of my cameras. And I got home and I left it in my cupboard for a bit, and when I was going to take it in for a service, I popped a battery in and it worked, and it's still working perfectly with absolutely 0 flaws. So again, it makes my trust in the brand a lot more important. All right, so far what I would like for you to have picked up from this. Your camera doesn't make you a photographer. You are responsible for that element. But having more expensive gear does help when it comes to specifics. So like I said, Nikon, the D3100 wasn't great at low light, the D600 was, and now obviously my Olympus gear is honestly a million times better at low light. So it's that progression, it's progressing and getting better gear as you go. Choose a name and build your brand around it. Like I said, Best Buddies photography doesn't really go with motorsport, not so much. Insurance is your best friend and most needed asset, especially in South Africa, especially when stuff is happening and dodgy stuff is happening constantly. The amount of house break-ins, the amount of break-ins from cars, and that's why I literally wrote in bold on my notes, do not leave your camera gear in the car, even if it is in the boot. Do not do it. Now, I drive a really skodonky car, so every now and then I'm like, oh, they won't think it's in the boot. No, don't. It's not worth the risk. And also, if your camera gear is not in a sort of closed-off, locked boot, your insurance won't cover. So please, insurance, always look for industries to push into the industry or genre that you want to get into. So like I said, find ways in. Push harder and harder each time. You will find it. Then in terms of competitions, just enter them. Just do it. Now, I dislike competitions immensely because, A, I'm a bad loser. I think to an extent we're all bad losers. But also because I'm always kind of like, is my work good enough? Is this photo good enough to actually be submitted into a competition? Just do it. Just enter. You never know what it could actually lead to. So understand that photography is not easy. Financially, it's extremely unstable. There are times that you're going to work with very challenging clients. And like I said, there are days that you're going to not produce your best images. There are going to be days where you're like, what is this? Like, what the heck? You'll see every single flaw in your image. You'll see every single possibility that you didn't take in your image. We all have those. We literally all have those. I mean, I have days where I literally come home. I don't even empty my cards until, I don't know, a week later, obviously, unless it's a paying shoot, because I'm just like, I don't feel good about these images. We all have those days. We just have to push past them and understand that tomorrow will be a better day. Try as many genres as possible. This will help you grow as a photographer and help you understand photography or your photographic journey a lot better. Use opportunities for your skills. So like I said, even if it's a negative experience, even if it's a difficult client, even if it's a client not wanting to pay you, use that as a learning curve. Use it as okay, I need to get my paperwork sorted so that they are contractually obliged to pay me. Use every single opportunity and every single step that happens in your photography to let you grow. Do not let imposter syndrome win Can't believe that's actually a real thing. Like I said, I had to Google it today because I was like, wait, what is this? And it's literally something as creatives that we suffer with drastically. And now with my painting and drawing, I see it. I literally am like, is this good enough? And you know what? It is. We are just too critical on ourselves. And lastly, make sure you stand out as a photographer. Make sure that you are creating images that make the world go, ooh, that's different. And sometimes it's not easy. With motorsport, it was seriously difficult. I mean, most of our racetracks don't look like anything. Most of our race days are on really, really hot, sunny days. There's no, no clouds, nothing to add drama. So you have to now look for creative ways. And no matter what you shoot, whether it be portraits, what is making you different as a photographer? So that is pretty much it. That is all of the information I wrote down. Does anybody have any questions for me? Any comments? And then just a side note, if anybody wants to chat to me, please, I will happily post my WhatsApp number. If you're in need of guidance, if you have any questions, starting your photographic journey is not easy. From choosing your camera to which direction do you go, to charging, how much do you charge, to trying to, and I say trying to because I still am not very good at this, but trying to work in that each time that you have a shoot, that you're literally making money to put aside for when your camera gear dies. Because that's another element that doesn't get discussed nearly enough in this industry. It's the fact that we buy cameras, they don't last forever. They die, their shutter dies, they have issues. So you literally need to have a certain amount in the bank to make sure, and especially if you do this full time, to make sure that if your camera suddenly dies, it's not a crisis. It's not you having to try and sell a kidney type situation. So please feel free to post any questions. Valerie, glad I'm catching at present. Thank you. Yay, thank you so much for joining. Carly, literally me. Which part? All of it. Most photographers, it's the imposter syndrome. It's the worst thing ever. It's like you literally sit down at your desk and you start editing a photo. Well, this is how I did. I start editing a photo and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to edit it this way. And halfway through editing, I'm like, no, this is rubbish. I'm going to start another image, because it's just, my brain goes, no, there's too many flaws, there's too many problems. You didn't do it. You didn't. So it's tricky, but you have to literally work past it. And especially when it comes to client shoots, those are the trickiest. Delivering is the worst for me, when you have to deliver to a client and you're like waiting for them to come back. And a lot of the times clients, especially corporates, don't come back to you. They don't give you, okay, cool, we're happy with the images. Okay, we're not happy with the images. They just go dead quiet. And for me, I'm like, my anxiety is like, oh my God, were they happy? Did I do a good enough job? Like, I freak out about that when it's completely out of my control. So it's tricky. Laura says, thanks for sharing your journey. Pics, inspiration, adventures. Awesome. PS, still need a new camera. We all need new cameras. Laura, let me know what camera you're thinking of and what your budget's looking like. Gary actually asked me a question, because I posted on the discussion part on the event. And Gary asked me about technique. What is your most used technique? In terms of business, in terms of photography, I have no flipping clue. I have no technique. I'm just like, okay, today I'm going to go do that, and tomorrow I'm going to do that, and then posting I'm going to do that. But in terms of photography, my most used technique: set the camera on aperture priority f2.8 and shoot. That is so professional. It's like setting it on auto. I don't actually know how to answer your first question, Gary, that you posted on the group. I shall have to think about that, and I will let you know. And then which software do you use for editing? I use Lightroom, and I use Photoshop, of which I've seen Lightroom has just had a new upgrade. I must upgrade my system. So that's the editing software that I use. I use Lightroom for most of my wildlife images, unless it requires something specific. And then for a lot of my portrait images, I'll pull it across into Photoshop. So kind of both Lightroom and Photoshop. I haven't had much experience using any of the other editing software. All right, so I am unfortunately going to log off here. Please feel free to carry on posting questions. And if you want a private chat, just send me a message. I am very, very open to chatting about photography. I will share as many tips and experiences, and I really, really like seeing other photographers grow. I like seeing them start off their photographic adventure and being able to experience some of the adventures and just absolutely incredible things that I've experienced. So thank you again for joining me tonight. Thank you again for the questions, for the comments. And I will see you guys. The next live will actually be in 2 weeks' time. I'm doing a live about aviation photography. So if you're interested in doing aviation photography, it'll literally be before the SWAT Corp Air Show. Unfortunately, I will not be at the Air Show because I have been I've been hired to photograph a spay day at the vet that I used to work at. So I'm kind of excited to be doing something for charity. But the next one will be in 2 weeks' time, which is I'm waiting for my calendar to open, and it's been slow. So my next live will be on the 3rd of May, and like I said, it will be all about aviation photography. We have one more question before I go. Martin, how do you market yourself business? That's a tricky one. That's a really, really tricky one because generally I don't really have much of a marketing way. I'll be completely honest. Most of the work that comes in is through word of mouth and through contacts. That is legit how a fair amount or most of my work comes through referrals, whether it be from other photographers or whether it be online. Marketing is probably my biggest downfall. I do have a website, and I do find that I have had work come through my website. So having a website that shows off some of the work is a valuable asset. And then I think, honestly, just constantly posting. So I post on my Instagram, I post on my Facebook. And again, it's random. It's like, here's a race car, here's a helicopter, here's a model, here's a flower, here's a pretty sunset. There's never really much of a theme that goes with that, but that does seem to work because it does seem to kind of show that my photography is very diverse. So I don't know. Marketing is probably my biggest downfall, like I said. But I think for me, that's worked is literally just constantly posting work that you've done and sharing your adventures, basically. So I'm unfortunately going to have to log out now because load shedding's about to hit in like 7 minutes time. So thank you again so much for joining me tonight. Please feel free to message me, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the evening.